Hello and welcome to Sim Sundays on the Traction Sim Racing podcast with Tom and Tom.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get over that eventually, Tom.
Joining us today on this episode will be André Eriksen, the CEO of Asetek or Asetek, your preference, and also Asetek SimSports, and that's particularly what we're talking to him about today because Tom spoke to him at Gamescom. Pretty hectic, wasn't it?
It was hectic. It was great. There was a lot of, I don't know, listening back to the episode, it felt like it was very live. Okay, so Ozley, our editor, has done an incredible job at turning up the audio levels so you can actually understand what André and I are talking about. But there was so much noise in the hall. There were so many people walking around, trying different games, looking at stuff, and right in the middle was the rig with the new Asetek kit on it, which was actually under embargo, so anybody walking past could have just kind of like snapped it, but seemingly no one has because it hasn't got out right, and we're having to blur the wheel in this episode. But it was great talking to André. It always is. I've been fortunate enough to speak to him, well, dozens of times, but I think we've done 3 interviews, and he's very open and he's very candid, and to that end he's given us some exclusives that we weren't expecting, and one of them is huge.
Yeah, right off the bat as well. It seems like it was, from that point of view, the easiest interview in the world. Oh, how are you doing? Yeah, here's this amazing exclusive.
Nah, it's all in my methods, you know. It's all in the stare.
Beguiling. It was, and this is a bit behind baseball, but it was a bit manic because while you were filming the interview with Nickel, myself and John were filming simultaneously on the show floor, something that people will see later on. Yeah. And as you alluded to there, for those watching on YouTube, there is a device that's blurred out. It's the mysterious new product. But not so mysterious because they've teased it themselves previously. And you speak to André about it in the interview. So it's kind of a thing.
Yeah. Well, it's great. And you know, Asetek is an exciting brand that always seems to bring stuff out. They don't muck about. They bring things out very quickly, and in my personal opinion, to a high quality. It's the stuff that I use at home. It's in the background of all of my podcasts, only because I'm in my spare room and I use that stuff. It's they are an exciting company. Remember the expo before last year? I don't know, 3 years ago, 3 expos ago, they had no booth. They just had a set of pedals in the corner of the Nürburgring expo, which was the first expo I went to, and that was it. And I remember seeing those pedals and thinking, oh, they look a bit different. And then next year, bang, huge booth at Sim Racing Expo with a whole range of kit that came out. So very exciting brand with an pedigree in gaming and cooling systems. Great interview. And obviously, we didn't have any questions sent in for this particular episode. It was very much an on-the-fly, opportunistic interview that we did at Gamescom. But for our future episodes, if you want to join in the conversation, send in your questions before each of our recording. Make sure you join the TraxionGG Discord, which you can do by clicking on the Discord logo at the top of TraxionGG website, or going to TraxionGG/Discord, or follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, etc., where we pre-announce our guests and invite your questions. As always, thank you to our podcast partners Elgato, who have sent us truckloads of kit to start building the new studio, the new TraxionGG studio up in Newcastle. So yeah, excited to get into that. And while you're here, consider giving us a follow, like, subscribe, etc., to help us grow our channel and get the guests that you want to hear from. Yeah,
that'll be a huge help. Also, I should make reference to, and what Tom mentioned there, the ADAC Sim Racing Expo. We are the official media partner. And this is a yearly event in Germany at the minute where all your big hardware and some game developers congregate, and tickets are available. And there's a little
this year will be the biggest
ever, and we'll be there as well. So stay tuned if you can't make it for some coverage on our YouTube channel and website. Before we dive into the interview, final point, I've got some fast facts about Denmark, what with Asetek being Danish. So obviously people know that most people know that Lego is from Denmark, but did you know if minifigures were a population, they'd be the world's largest? Over 4 billion exist apparently.
Wow.
The Danish Patriot originates from Austria. Don't get that. And apparently the Danes love lakrids, which, and I might have mispronounced that, which is a licorice and milk drink, which sounds utterly revolting. Anyway, on a better note, here's Tom's interview with André.
André.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Been a while.
Yeah.
Sim Racing Expo 2022 is the last time we spoke, and it looks like you've been busy since then.
Oh, we have, for sure. For sure.
It's been a lot of new products, basically a whole ecosystem, Prima, Forte, Invicta. How have you done it so fast?
Hard work. I think that's the overall headline. And then I also think that we had a plan from the get-go. We wanted to do these 3 product tiers, pretty much like, BMW. It could be Audi as well for that sake, but 7 Series, 5 Series, and 3 Series.
Yeah.
So we knew what we wanted, and as you know already, I guess, it's all our products are cross-compatible. Yeah. So there's also a lot of reuse from our side among the products, but it's certainly not been easy.
No, and it's an ambitious project from the start. It's so modular and upgradable. You've built these upgrade paths, and I know that some of that functionality is still to come in the future, but from day one, that was the advertised product, right? So you weren't starting with a small, simple, entry-level product to see how it goes. You had quite a big vision from day one.
Yeah, and we've actually started in the high end, and that's also been the vision that we are also here to make money. And business-wise, we have done quite okay also. But let's also face it and be honest about it that since we entered the market recently, actually, as you know, the price points have just come down and come down. And the way we are addressing that is not by discounting our products, because then there's no business. But we are actually launching a 4th completely brand new product line. And it's actually in tooling right now, and will be launched Q1 next year.
Right. Can you give us any clues?
Yes. I don't want to tell you the name yet.
Nope. Okay.
But it'll be the same. There will be a name, not some random numbers with Pro or GTX, and at the end it'll be a full product line. It will have the same modularity. It will, of course, not be made in real carbon and aluminum like this one, because it's a more budget product.
So it will sit below the Prima level?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think pricing will be between 500 and 600 for a complete set, so wheel, base, and pedals.
Okay. Are we going to see any prototypes at Sim Racing Expo?
I have not decided yet.
Okay. So it's very early days.
Yes. And if we are lucky, there will also be console support.
Right. Okay. From day one.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not entirely up to me. If it was, then there's another party as well. But that's our aim, nevertheless.
Okay, so we just talked about Sim Racing Expo, but we're here at Gamescom in Cologne. Very different vibe.
Yeah.
Very different Asetek stand.
Yeah, how do you like it?
I love it. I love it. For those who are listening, we're in a box with no lid. So if you can hear the outside world, I was expecting to walk in and shut the door and hear silence, and it's basically just as noisy, but it's lovely and private. So you don't have a huge stand.
No.
Why do you choose not to have your products out on display at Gamescom like some of your competitors, like Moser, for example?
Well, we did that, was it 2 years back, and we quickly found out that was not the audience for us. Of course, sim racing is a sub-segment of gaming, but when you're in the high end as we are, it just didn't make sense. There was a lot of enthusiastic users, and we spent a lot of money and a lot of time, but there was not a lot of buyers. With the new product line I just described, I think it will change, so we may be here next year with a stand. So we are only here 2 people. Nils, our product manager, and myself, and I'm here to talk to the press, just like you guys. And I think I have 35 press meetings in 2.5 days, so I think my elevator pitch is pretty well honed now. So the deal is I speak to the journalist for 15 minutes, then they exit our little chamber here, and then Nils take over, and they get to try out the rig and our new Invicta wheel. And then we just do that over and over again. So it's a different purpose. This is pure press. We, of course, there are a few customers, but at the end of the day, it's only press.
Yeah. When you give the elevator pitch that many times, does it ever evolve? Would you ever realize anything about the pitch itself in the process?
Yeah, absolutely. There are many things, because what I realize now, there's a lot of people who knows us, but I would say from the journalists I've spoken to, there are 3 types. There are people who don't know us at all. There are people who knows us from liquid cooling. And then there's the last third, like yourself. You know that we do everything, and you have been here from the beginning.
Yeah.
So for sure, I have to tune my pitch towards who I'm speaking to.
That's fascinating. So let's assume that I don't know anything about Asetek. how would you describe Asetek to somebody who doesn't know sim racing, doesn't know the market, doesn't know where Fanatec and Asetek and SimuCube and Moser and SimMagic sit all within the market? How do you describe Asetek?
I tell them the founder story from when I founded the company, and the fact that we have sold more than 11 million liquid coolers now. Than if you're a real gamer, there's a very high likelihood that you had a gaming PC with our stuff inside.
Yeah.
And then I talk about the process that made us enter the sim market in the first place, and the fact that we are real racers. If I look at the sim industry, everybody claims that they are real racer and they are sponsoring this random race somewhere. But last weekend our team was there with our LMP3. We won 3 races. We put it on pole. We said, thank you. We set track record. We do it. It's not just something we do in marketing. We do it. Yeah. And I think that's important to understand who we are and why our products are like they are.
Is there any ambition to make that connection to real motorsport stronger by having some kind of branded wheel? A couple of brands now have done a wheel where you can put it physically into a real car, take it out, and then put it into your rig. If you're that close, is that something that you're considering?
No, to me that's a gimmick, 100% gimmick. Just tell me one real-life example where it would be an advantage to take your sim wheel that would fit in the car that came with the wheel in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, and the other thing is when you're in your race car, nobody can use your sim rig.
No, exactly.
Nightmare.
So, no, you never say never, but unless somebody paid us big money to do it, I would not spend money on it at least. But, the Invicta wheel in front of me, in my opinion, it's nicer than any wheel I've ever had in any of my race cars.
Okay, so, well, that's an interesting topic of conversation in itself, and we were actually discussing that on the drive from Amsterdam to Cologne a couple of days ago, that actually real-world race cars, the equipment inside it is nowhere near as shiny and as pretty as sim racing.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And, one of the first things that when I decided to found Asetek SimSports, we have this very unique quick release. And I was very vocal internally that it cannot have play because sim racers will not accept any play. Yeah. But, in a real race car, our LMP car, it's 2 years old, it has
rallying about.
It doesn't have 2,000 kilometers on it yet. The steering wheel is like sloppy and all over the place. You don't feel it when you drive. Yeah. So that's a big difference between sim racing and real life racing.
You have done branded collaborations in the past. You had the Pagani pedals.
Yeah.
Is that something you're looking to do again, or is it kind of an opportunistic thing if something comes about?
Yeah, it's definitely the last. We have had conversations with several car manufacturers and also Formula One teams as late as of today. But the problem is turning it into a business.
Right.
Because, and I know one of our colleagues here, they have done this Porsche wheel, and that's really nice. But guess what? If you're not a Porsche fan, you would never buy it.
Yeah.
So
it's a subsector of a subsector of a subsector.
Exactly. It just becomes too niche. So again, I would never say never. But it's not a great business model.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the wheel in front of us. That's what we're here to discuss. From the back, it looks incredible. Now, I have a Forte at home. Yeah. We have a Forte in the Grid Finder office, and we have one for the Traction Studio. So we're very familiar with the Forte. Why should we buy the Invicta?
I would say the main reason is the screen. Because it is nice to have a screen if you simulate certain cars. And then I also think that if you have the money, I think it's a pretty good deal actually. And it kind of completes the Invicta line. Everything is aluminum and contrast milled. Just the Asetek SimSports logo, it takes 1 hour to machine. Wow. And 1 hour, that's $100. Yeah. And so we've done everything the best we could here. Where on the Forte, from a quality perspective, there's no reason to swap whatsoever. The Forte is a great wheel. But here we have played around a little bit more with the materials and, so I would say if you're a fine-smaker and you want a display, that's the reason. Elsewise, I would not swap.
So if you're listening to this on Spotify and can't see, but you're familiar with the Forte, the Invicta, it looks beefier. It's got a screen on the front. The dials definitely look a little bit more premium. I'm looking at the back of it now. I can see the quick release and 3 different clutches, and it's customizable, right? So when I order one, I can. There's some options that I can make.
Yes. Again, from the car analogy I made before, we wanted to make this a premium experience also, not just a premium product. So when you go to our website when it's launched, and it will launch in October, then you get into this 3D configurator, and then you can decide, do you want twill carbon, forged carbon, if you want carbon shifters, non-carbon shifters, quick release, no quick release, so if you want to use it on your own wheelbase, you can decide the colors of the buttons and the dials, and so you can even buy it without handles. So if you have a Forte wheel, you can just screw off the handles and use on this.
Okay, so there's a base price and then there's an add-on. So what's the base price?
The base price is around 1,300. And for that wheel and for that level, I think that's actually a very fair price.
And what's the if I went for every single bell and whistle on the wheel, what's the maximum it could cost me?
I'm not 100% sure, but it's not like it's going to double or anything like that. What of course, if you want a quick release, our competitors are selling without a quick release, so we are as well. So if you add the quick release, of course you have to pay for that. Whether you take one carbon or the other carbon, no price difference. Whether you take one handle or the other, no price difference. Then if you take the suede, there's a small price difference, but it's really peanuts. And then there's colors of the buttons, same price. So it really comes down to if you want the carbon shifters or not. And I don't remember the price difference, but it's not big.
So something I'm interested in is you launched the Prima and the Forte wheel rim a couple of years ago, and you've had that out on the market. Thousands and thousands of sim racers have used those. This came out later. I'm curious to know whether this being the premium product came out later so that you could learn the lessons of the first two, or whether it's just that much more complex that it took longer.
It's simply because one of the things, if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, I would like us to be remembered for is our software. Our biggest team in our engineering department is software. And I do believe that's where we stand out compared to some of the little bit cheaper guys, that they crank out a lot of new hardware, but I at least don't think their software is following. So we have spent so many hours on the software, on the screen, on the firmware, and just to give you a few examples, our screen or our wheel, if we made it pure SimHub, it would have been out a year ago, because then there was no development. Then you just buy a USB display and off you go. But we have made our own native screens that you can use, where we also have SimHub support. So you can do it the easy way, use our screens, our configuration, and get going. And for those who really want to tinker, they can do the SimHub stuff. And that's not been simple.
No, I can imagine. So you must have gone and seen SimHub, see what they do, see what layouts they have, see how people use it on their phone or with a DDU or Raspberry Pi, whatever it is they happen to be using. When you set out to create your own screen and your own software, what were the things that you wanted to change? What is it that you wanted to be better in particular?
I think we cannot be better than SimHub, but I think we can be better in one place, and that's the user friendliness.
Okay.
I think I know both from reviewers and from end users that it's not all that have the desire to do that part. And remember, we have a lot of real life race car drivers using our stuff. They have zero interest in that. They want to get in the rig and drive. They don't want to have fun creating new screens or share it with their friends, and for them that's not so we wanted the best of both worlds. We wanted to keep the flexibility to give the, let's call them the hardcore sim racers, the possibility to do it as they want, but we also appreciate the people who just want it easy. Turn on the button and go.
Yeah.
And as you remember back to when we started, that was one of my big things, one software application for all our products. And it will be like that in the future, even in the value line that we will come with, same software.
Yeah. Now I'm interested in something you said there, that the software is where you spend most of your money, that's the biggest team. I think when people look at sim racing, they would say that the games are the software and the gear is the hardware, and that feels like the natural separation. But actually, it's interesting that there's far more software development involved than hardware development. So you're known, I guess, previously as a liquid cooling company, which am I ignorant to say that that's a hardware company?
Yes.
Or is there just as much hidden software in that as there is in this?
There is not as much, but for example, from the firmware side, low-level software, we do our own motors in our pumps.
Yeah.
And noise is extremely important inside a PC or a workstation. So there's a lot of firmware there. And then, a lot of the liquid coolers have an LCD screen on it. So what we've seen that before. So there is a lot of software there as well, actually.
It's interesting that there's a far more natural progression, or not progression, but transition, I guess, from liquid cooling to sim racing hardware as you'd first imagine.
Yeah, and there's many of your colleagues that asked that exact same question today. And, if you think about our engineering team, there is one team. And we make them swap position from where we're busy, not hour by hour, day by day, but we use the same engineers across different projects, being liquid cooling or SimSports.
So, Asetek's been around for a few years now, but this product has taken the longest out of anything to come out. What's it like getting it out there in the wild and having people touch it and feel it and look at it? And we've got, right now as we're recording, we've got John and Tom from Traxion 3 meters away recording a hands-on first look at the wheel, and they're going to be touching it. They're going to be looking at what the buttons feel like, what it feels like to twist. They're going to be listening to the noise of the flappy paddle to make sure they're happy with that. Like, what's that like when you put that out there, knowing that that's the level of detail that gamers and racers will go into?
I would say there are two true feelings. One of them is, of course, the excitement to hear the feedback, and it's been awesome. It's really, I've been blown away. But the other thing is also the pride of, we know what we wanted to develop, and now it's there.
Yeah.
So it's a mix of the two, I would say.
Okay, and then next, Sim Racing Expo, you said that there's potentially the fourth line. Now, recently you brought out some additions to your wheels, so some new buttons and some new hand grips. Anything else that we can expect in the next 12 months? What's the direction for Asetek?
Yeah, for sure. We will. There will be more Invicta products. For example, the ABS that we already showed. The reason it's not out, it's just hardcore priorities.
Yeah.
We are just not a big team, so we just have to prioritize. But that will come. There will be H-pattern shifters, sequential shifters, hand brakes. So yes, we will continue, for sure.
When you look around Gamescom this year compared to last year, I feel like there's more sim racing here than there has been in the recent past. A lot of competitors from the Far East coming in. Some of those products, if you look at, for example, Moser's active pedal, they are starting to go more premium. Where do you think Asetek sits with Fanatec perhaps kind of falling away a little bit at the moment? Who's your natural competitor? It feels like you've got your own little space now.
Yeah, I have to give kudos to Moser for bringing out new products at the speed that they do. That being said, it doesn't make me nervous at all, because as you point out, I think we're in our own space. And what I mean by that is I consider any market or any product like a triangle. One corner you have customer support, and that's not a coincidence, I started there. And then in the second corner you have price, and in the third corner you have what I would call performance/quality. You can have a cheap product, but that lasts forever, meaning the quality is good, the performance is just not there. So, and I think where we want to be the best, that's the product performance and quality and customer support. If you call our customer support now, somebody will actually pick up the phone. Yeah. I would dare to say that some of the companies you mentioned, no one will ever pick up the phone. So it's a little bit what's most important to you. If cost is the most important, then we are probably not the right ones. That being said, I think we are significantly below the really, let's call it premium brands, but I feel we have the same performance and product. So that is where we keep our focus. For example, on the active pedals, 100 people have asked us the last few days, are you now also doing active pedals? I said, no, we're not, because for me, active pedals on the throttle, to me that's a gimmick. There's no race car in the world where you'll feel anything from the car in the throttle. Yeah. Same with the clutch. Then you have the brake pedal. We already have a hydraulic system. We are going to add the ABS at some point, which is not a simulation, it is an ABS pump from a real car.
Yeah.
So I'm faithful to this direction, that we want it to be as real as you can get. For example, this button here on the backside of the Invicta wheel, that was a feature that Kmag requested. It said, he tested the prototype and said, hey guys, you should really consider that, because we have that in the car, and it's really useful, because when you go into a corner, it's almost impossible to touch the buttons on the front, but you can still do it on the back. As you probably know already, he was at our facilities several times to tune the firmware so it gets as close as you can get with, let's say, consumer grade stuff. So I think that's our claim to fame here, and then either people want to join us on that mission or they don't.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Kevin Magnussen, because I was going to ask a question about the testing that went into this. Feels like a shameless name drop, but last week I spoke to Romain Grosjean about the testing that he's done for sim racing companies.
Yeah.
And we started talking about testing. In the real world, these guys are constantly testing engineering setups and new cars, and I was asking how similar that is to sim racing testing. Interesting to ask you from the other perspective, what's it like having a Formula One driver like Kmag give you ideas and then presumably test the end product?
It's been great and it's been fun, I think, both for him and for our people, and of course to use Kmag's pretty face on our website and hope we sell more. It doesn't work like that. Yeah. People are not stupid. It's not like when you see some celebrity use a different or some specific kind of shampoo, then you run and buy it. I mean, the sim racing is not like that. Yeah. So I think the technical side, that he's really, can I get a little bit more of that? Can I get less of that? And that feeling I never had before, can you just explain what is that? And so I think that also educates our engineers to a level that would be impossible to do elsewise. And then remember, the same engineers, sometimes they come to us at the track. They actually participated in a real race weekend. And several of our engineers now, and not only engineers, also salespeople and marketing people, we have this in-house project at Asetek. There's always something going on. A few years ago, the employees built their own 3D printers. Now we are into sim racing. Our employees are actually building sim rigs, and I think the way it is that they pay the materials themselves, and then Asetek pays the rest, machine time and everything. So, it just gets much more real. Yeah,
no, I love that. Now, I've got one more question before we go on to our quick fire questions that we end every podcast with. Sim Racing Expo year before last, I sat in a cockpit.
Yeah.
What's the plan with racing cockpits? Is that a direction that you're still planning to go down? It was very innovative. It was a Formula-style cockpit that we've never seen before.
I love it still.
Do you use it?
Yes, and again, prioritization.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten to it yet, but for sure we will. I think the cockpit market right now is flooded, and it's difficult to differentiate yourself. But as you know, you saw it. It is very different, and it is something that we aim to bring to the market for sure.
And is there much evolution of that concept, or is it kind of a finessing and finishing of that concept?
It's refinements, I would say.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it. So, as we do every episode of Sim Sundays on the Traction podcast, 5 quick fire questions, and I haven't told you what these are.
Also 5 quick answers.
5 quick answers. So instant, rapid reaction. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Your best motorsport moment of all time?
That must have been when my son won the championship in go-kart.
Mario Kart or iRacing?
What was the question?
Mario Kart or iRacing?
iRacing.
Okay. Why is sim racing the best?
Because it's real submersible.
Why does sim racing suck?
It doesn't, since we came on the market.
Nice. Who should we invite next onto our podcast?
Kmag.
Okay, if you can make that happen, that'd be amazing. André, thank you so much.
I can help at least.
Appreciate your time. It's been great, and enjoy the rest of Gamescom.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Take care.
Well, that was Tom's interview with André Eriksen. Thanks to Asetek for their time. But hang on a minute. Pretty sure he was talking about a new entry-level range at a decent price that's potentially, hopefully, compatible with consoles.
Yeah, that took me by surprise, to be honest. I knew that they were working on this new range. We're fortunate to be quite close with Asetek guys, and they've mentioned this new range to us, but never on record. So for him to just come out with it during this podcast, I was like, right, well, we need to dive deep into this, because Asetek famously go for the higher end peripherals, right? Their stuff isn't cheap, and they don't pretend that they are going for the accessible market. They're going for the high end simulation, racing drivers, gentleman drivers, track dayers who want, that one-to-one simulation, and that's their market. And this is a bit of a departure from it, but what would be interesting to see is, can they achieve a CSL DD-like price point, but achieve a step up in quality that we've come to know from Asetek. At least that's my personal experience, opinion, right? I wonder if they can achieve that.
The market's there for the taking, and now we're seeing many competitors desperately trying to take away what I think perhaps could have been Fanatec's most popular in terms of sales numbers devices, right? This is the whole thing with their CSL DD, as you mentioned, and the Gran Turismo DD, which is the same device but works on PlayStation effectively. And now we're seeing manufacturers like Thrustmaster and Asetek and Moser. They all want to be in that market on a console as well, right? Because we're also seeing that Le Mans Ultimate keeps talking about console compatibility. It just released a video saying, look at the PS5 Pro, we can now maybe do something. Project Motor Racing will also be available on consoles as well next year, we understand. So there are more sim racing titles on the way for those devices, and therefore there needs to be a greater peripherals ecosystem, I suspect. And not forgetting PC users. PC users might spend all their available budget on a very expensive PC and not have much money left for the wheel.
True.
So something that's affordable for those players as well. I think it's a good opportunity if Asetek do it in the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. I do wonder why console peripherals always go for the lower Newton meters of downforce feedback. It must be because of the assumption that a console player is a lower budget player, and therefore they have to create the lower budget direct drive wheel. But I wonder if there's a market for your PlayStation, Xbox driver who wants a 15 to 20 Newton meter wheel. Because so far, I think I'm right in saying that no one's done that.
There is an older Fanatec device that's no longer made. I think it was called the DD1 or the DD2. One of those was PS4 compatible.
Interesting.
But it's no longer produced. And It was on the upper... I forget the Newton meters. Someone can let us know in the comments. It was on the upper end. And actually, weirdly, that came before Fanatec went lower in the market. But you're right. I would love to see something with a bit more oomph on console. I suppose the highest one right now is the Logitech, 11 Newton meters peak. So we'll have to see.
Right now.
So maybe Asetek could use this entry-level device as a toe in the water and then build it from there.
Yeah. Fascinating. As always, it was great to chat with André. The guy's got so much energy; it's infectious, and he drives a high standard. I really enjoyed talking to André. So thank you, André, for spending time with us. It was obviously a very busy weekend at Gamescom. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave us a review on Spotify and or YouTube. It helps us find new audience and share these conversations with people so we can get more guests. Feel free to join us on the TraxionGG Discord, where we chat about all the news stories that the guys break on the TraxionGG website and our podcast episodes, etc. It's where our conversations happen. And as always, thank you to our partner Elgato for providing us with all our kit for our new studio. Next time, Tom. New format.
Yeah, we haven't got a clue what's going to happen. So we have some interviews coming up again, but once a month we'll have what's tentatively titled a news style show, where it's the Traxion team talking about the past month, what's been going on in sim racing games, and maybe a bit of automotive culture. It's not going to be called Ace Biscuits, but we are going to record it soon. So we hope you enjoy the ride, and we're also welcome to feedback on that. So stay tuned, keep subscribing.
If you have any ideas for names for that format, please send them in. I think Traxion Tea Break is so far the top of my mind, but I think it's one of those ideas where in about 10 minutes time I'll go, that's a terrible idea. But if you've got any better ideas for a name for our monthly news roundup podcast, send it in.
Nice one. All right, that was it for this episode. Keep it pinned. Oh, that was terrible. At the end, final edit. What we ended with? Welcome to the paddock. Yeah.
No, I think we should keep it in.
That's it. Welcome to the paddock. Bye.